Today, it's a very important show that we must take very seriously. We're asking who gets your vote. Sorry, can somebody shut that off, please? We're asking who you will be backing in what could be a momentous general election. With me, Jeremy Vine.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, now I know how the Prime Minister felt, Salma. Did he do that deliberately? Say, I'm a man of the people, I can't afford an umbrella? Is that what was going on? Or was it an accident?
Do you think it was that sophisticated?
Well, genuinely, my worry is he comes out and he says Sunak hasn't got a plan. Sorry, Starmer hasn't got a plan. And he can't even look out the window.
Look, the optics of that announcement were terrible yesterday. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for him because he has a whole team of people who are supposed to think about this stuff. I used to think about this stuff partially, for my old boss in government. And
Sajid Javid.
Yes, and there is an easy decision, and I'm sure somebody said it, there would have been a quiet voice in the room that would have said, oh, maybe we should do it inside.
Well, let's just have a look.
And they were ignored.
Yeah, maybe it's not bad. Maybe because what you want to avoid is the Steve McLaren thing of the Wally and the Brolly. So months and months of speculation, 4 years since the entire country last went to the polls. And this was the announcement.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July. These uncertain times call for a clear plan and bold action to chart a course to a secure future. You must choose in this election who has that plan, who is prepared to take the bold action necessary to secure a better future for our country and our children.
The song playing is significant, Matt. Why?
It's significant because it's Dee Ream and it's the song that welcomed Tony Blair to Downing Street in that landslide victory in 1997. We should be under no illusion, by the way, Labour requires, and you know all about swings, Jeremy, it requires a massive swing just to get a majority of one this time round. But that's the significance. Now, do you need a team of people to tell you that you get wet when it rains?
Well, it's got to be deliberate. It's got to be, I'm not too rich to get wet.
No, I don't think that's it at all. I think they've gone through, because all of this stuff is all about what is the picture that you want at the end of it and what are you trying to display. And obviously, it hasn't turned out well because there are now all these jokes and memes and all these kinds of things
some later,
running. But yes, it does require a team, because setting that up, the mechanism of just getting to that point where you're giving the speech, where you've decided what you want the picture to look like, where you think that actually it's going to be iconic, and so therefore it's got to be outside on the steps of number 10. If you've got a brolly, does he hold it? Does he not hold it? Does somebody else come out with a brolly and hold it?
They spent millions of pounds, didn't they, in this Parliament, since we last got a chance to put an X in the box, on this press briefing room.
So, yeah, they could have done it.
What does it matter about Steve McLaren and brollies or no brollies? Don't do it outside when it's in the rain. Everything about it looked rushed and unprofessional. Even the erecting of the lectern didn't look right. I mean, it was hurried. The whole thing was a shambles, Jeremy. Yeah. And by the way, this was yesterday on a day when already in the news, Tory clampdowns on our right to protest. And then Steve Bray, this famous anti-Brexit campaigner, manages to disrupt it and almost drown out the Prime Minister. It's shambolic.
Bray was better prepared than the Prime Minister because he had that thing on speed dial, that track. We'll be asking the big question of who gets your vote later. We're going to open the phone lines early today to ask if you felt sorry for soggy Sunak, because after all, he's trying to do a job of work. Somebody then, shoves him out the front door. The culprit was, as Matt says, this anti-Brexit campaigner, Steve Bray, music culprit. He and his fellow activists were moved on by police at the gates of Downing Street after being told their music was causing a serious disruption. Here's his protest in action and the aftermath.
I'm imposing conditions on you. Stephen, I'm imposing conditions on you under Section 14 ZA of the Public Order Act 1986.
Puppet.
For prosperity
this
on
is
your
meant to be the greatest
friend.
democracy in the world. You're telling me I can't protest at the seat of power?
Not when your protest is causing disruption.
Welcome
and
to
upset,
North Korea.
So that's the sideshow. I don't know. It's classically British, this, isn't it?
Look, I don't agree with Steve Bray, but I so love his protests. I used to walk past him all the time. He's been there for a long time. He has, a whole sort of club of people that assist him, and he's disruptive by nature. That's part of the great British institution of public protest.
Okay, we've got a whole load of bits and pieces that happened yesterday. Let's start with the new leader of the Scottish National Party, John Swinney. He was complaining that the election's now taking place in the school holidays in Scotland.
I think this is perhaps the latest act of disrespect from a Conservative government to call an election during the Scottish summer school holidays. There'll be schools in Scotland on holiday by the time polling day comes, and that will not have been given a moment's thought by the Tory election planners.
I'll also show you this tweet by Chris Hope of GB News, very prominent, respected political reporter, who says, I just can't believe that this could happen, that some Conservative MPs are panicking so much because they think they might lose their jobs in this election, that they want to depose Sunak before the election happens to stop it happening. Could that be true?
Of course that's not going to happen. But if we're talking about optics, it's not just the visual optics of Sunak being rained on from a great height, is it? That allow trade unions to put up memes, allow you to get drenched and mock the Prime Minister the day after he announces this general election. This was the one thing he could still control while he's 20 points behind in the polls, was the timing of the election. And he gets it so badly wrong. But it's not just the visual optics of being rained on. It's about the fact that even his own MPs are furious with him.
Well, they're panicking in the tea rooms, apparently. So yesterday, Steve Bray with the music was moved on by the police. Maybe you sympathise with that. There was also a very weird situation with a Sky reporter. Have a look.
And I'm being forcibly removed. We just simply wanted to have access tonight at Sky News. But unfortunately, we're told that because there are pool arrangements in place, we're not allowed to be here. This is, by the way, what we're trying to film is the campaign event where the Prime Minister is due to speak in the next couple of minutes. It's in front of Conservative activists. It's essentially trying to get across the message that we had in Downing Street today.
Well, God only knows what was happening there. The other thing, because before we knew about the election date, the Prime Minister said very explicitly the autumn, right? So this is not the autumn. July is not the autumn. So then yesterday, this quite sharp leader of the SNP at Westminster, whose name is Stephen Flynn, they asked him a question to see if the election is going to be in July, and he gets this interesting answer.
Mr. Speaker, speculation is rife, so I think the public deserve a clear answer to a simple question. Does the Prime Minister intend to call a summer general election, or is he feared?
Mr. Speaker, as I have said repeatedly to him, there is, Mr. Speaker, spoiler alert, there is going to be a general election in the second half of this year.
In the second half of this year? Really?
Yeah.
As if that's not what he said before. He said autumn.
Autumn. I know, exactly.
It's poor, isn't it?
But it's exactly why there's lots of backbench Tory MPs who are so riled about this, because there's the management, there's the expectation, there are the things that, there were still lots of people who wanted to resign their seats before this happened. And so there's a scramble. And this is what happens when you have a snap general election.
You would call it a snap election, would you?
Yeah, I absolutely would, because of that assertion that it would happen in autumn.
Yeah.
And now that it's happening on the 4th of July. And, for me, that is a snap, because even though it's within the window and the time frame of calling an election, this kind of poor expectation management, I think, has really upset the apple cart.
Reading his mind a little bit, why would he go for a snap election? I know he had the inflation figures yesterday. That can't be just the only reason.
I think that there was always this idea that perhaps by the autumn things would get better. And I think that there is a school of thought within Number 10, within the political advisor group, that says we have to go now because we don't know that it could get better. In fact, it could get worse.
OK, after the break, we're taking your calls on whether you felt sorry for Mr Sunak. Let's take a look at some of the papers. They love their headlines there, these newspapers. They've got everything now. They've got an election, they've got a story, and they've got a great image of Mr Sunak in the rain, or as the Sun has it, Taylor Swift. So just when we were looking forward to the Euros, Taylor, Wimbo and sunshine, Rishi calls an election, oh, ballots. We checked Taylor Swift is actually in Amsterdam on that day. But anyway, put it on the front page. Telegraph, Sunak gambles. Drown and out is the Mirror. I'm still wet, guys. Gone on the 4th of July is the Daily Record. Another good headline there. So the memes were crazy yesterday on Twitter and so on. Trade Union Congress happily poked fun at Sunak after a load of pay battles with the government. They tweeted, forced to work in the rain unnecessarily, join a union. There were also references to a famous rain-soaked scene from Richard E. Grant's With Nail and I. Someone saying I've called an election by mistake. Even the former leader Boris Johnson came a cropper thanks to this tweet referencing him being turned away at a polling station at the local elections this month. So I don't get what's going on there. Boris Johnson right now.
Member ID.
Oh, I see. OK, July 4th. Right. Don't get that. Then I did, look, here we are. I did one. I just thought I joined in. I did a meme involving our great friend Mylene, because, of course, she's the most famous person to appear in a shower for many, many years. So when I put a bit of Sunak in there and, 6 people saw it. I don't know, when people start laughing at an election launch, Matt.
Bad.
It is bad. But let's think of the other side of this. John Major, when he won in 92, won by saying, I'm not having a briefing room, I'm not going indoors, I'm going out and about with the people, and he got a soapbox and he stood on it and everyone laughed at him and he won. Is it possible that the rain was Rishi's soapbox?
No.
OK, Peter in Kent, hi.
Good morning.
Do you feel sorry for him?
No, I don't. I believe that the man done very well, and I actually respect him for it. At the end of the day, it was teeming down with rain. He still went out there, despite the mocking with the speech and everything else, and the fact that he got wet.
Yeah.
And it was raining. I think he stood there very composed, and I actually respect the man more for doing that than rather than putting it off. You've had others go out there on a parapet or whatever to make speeches, and they've had people hold umbrellas up. I think he done very well. He stood his ground despite the weather. It didn't deter him. He said what he had to say, and I think he done it very clearly. And like I say, I've got more respect for the man for doing what he done rather than...
You don't, right, I hear you. The counter-argument, Peter, is that you cannot have a Prime Minister who is unable to work out when you use an umbrella.
Well...
Everyone else knows. Everyone else knows when you need a brolly.
Well, you speak to the wrong person, because if I could go back in time and find out who invented the brolly, I'd shoot them. I think they're dangerous. People walk about the street with them.
Well, we talked about this yesterday. You were obviously watching yesterday, yeah.
I wasn't actually, but the thing is, people with brollies, they walk along the road, no respect for others, poke you in the eye, and you've got to walk all over the place.
Well, there wasn't, you're right. So he was actually being very considerate. Thank you very much, Peter. That's taken a turn. David in Cumbria, are you feeling sorry for Mr. Sunak?
Hi, Jeremy. As you know, I do PR for a living with artists. And if I'd have done that to one of my artists, I would have got fired.
Yeah. Well, the electrics, for a start. I mean, the guy's rigged up with a lectern microphone. Yeah. It's cabled in. You know, there was a singer once who touched a mic and he had virtually had a stroke because of the electric shock. So, I don't know, David. What was going on? Was it some idea that he's a man of the people because he can't afford an umbrella?
I'd have done it inside, because you've got beautiful staterooms. You could have done it even in the cabinet office, a cabinet room. It would have looked so much better.
Inside? You would have done it inside.
I would absolutely have done it.
You would have done it inside?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Look, they've got, as we said, multi-million-pound room precisely
but
for
it's
this
a horrible
sort of
room.
purpose.
It looks horrible. It's got no windows.
But doesn't that say a lot? Rishi Sunak is infamous for not really getting politics. And then he turns up at this key moment. He kickstarts a campaign that we are all going to get involved with. We are all implicated in. We all have a chance to vote. And he does it in the most embarrassing and shambolic way imaginable. It shows that never mind his team, never blame the team. He's our Prime Minister, and that's why this matters.
He's going to go back inside Downing Street, and it's going to be a test of his temperament, because if a lot of people say, right, whose idea was that?
There's just one thing that I'm not clear about, and it's a procedural matter.
Yes.
Which is, does he have to do it outside without the crest on? Because technically number 10 is a government property if he's announcing an election.
It's a party matter. That's a good point. Could
he
do it
Is
in
it because
10?
he couldn't do it inside?
Yeah, you're right, because I think he would have to do it. Would he? No, I don't know, because he still has... That
is a good question.
Maybe he could have done it inside Conservative Central Office, but it's a compromise, isn't it?
Again, it doesn't work. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because
I think
it's
that's a
easy
good
for us
point.
to be on the outside and say, oh, of course he should have done it inside.
Yeah.
We're sitting here in hindsight, right? We know that there's a big process of decision-making, but I wonder if it's because he couldn't do it inside.
I think that might be it. It's almost like neutral ground. So thank you, David. Good point. Runs a PR company, would never have done that to any of his artists. Apart from anything else, they could get electrocuted. Sarah in Gloucestershire, are you feeling sorry for Mr. Sunak? It started badly, that's for sure.
Oh, honestly, I just was looking at this pathetic little twerp. Stood outside Downing Street. I was praying for a drop of rain to go down his nose and hang there. It would just about have summed him up.
Well, you say that. He's richer than the king, so he's not a pathetic little twerp, is he? He may be the wrong guy in the wrong job at the wrong time. I don't know.
Somebody who cannot organise an umbrella.
No, OK.
Really?
Fair comment. Because most hotels, if you go out the front door, they have one of those little umbrella buckets, and you've got 5 or 6. So in the end, it's down to him as he goes out. Am I going to take one? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the thing about Sarah's comment, I mean, I don't, Sarah, forgive me, I don't necessarily agree with your characterisation of twerp, but you have hit on something, which is the competence point. And if your political opponents are going to slam you on competence in government, that whole idea that you couldn't get yourself an umbrella, it just feeds into that narrative.
He's making Labour's attack ads for them. All they have to do now, and what they have already done, is just put a picture up of Rishi Sunak looking utterly miserable, drenched through.
And maybe that's the country.
You're calling him soggy Sunak.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the balance here a little bit as the presenter. And the other thing I would say is the Royal Regatta, if you remember that, when the Queen had been on the throne, bless her, for 60 years. Or maybe 7, they sent them down the river, her and Prince Philip, and they're so stoic, those two, that they didn't have any cover at all, as far as I can. Philip ended up in hospital. And it's something about showing people that we're going to go through the same... We suffer the same weather as you. That's the message,
but
isn't it?
But everyone knows, as you've already pointed out, that this man, together with his wife, is richer than our king.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and he hasn't got any of the palaces, though.
You can... I see what you're saying about the balance, and I agree with you, because there's always a more rational way of looking at these kinds of situations rather than your visceral, instinctive view. And I can see how they're spinning it, is that he was adamant to go out, he was adamant to do the speech from the steps of Downing Street. But I also think that when the stakes are so high in politics, you've got to think this through a little bit more carefully.
Because it's not just...
Let me just hang on, let's get another call. Paula in Worcestershire, hi.
Hi.
What do you want to say?
I don't feel sorry for the guy at all. He wasn't elected. The Conservatives were elected, but obviously he wasn't. He's not in touch with reality. The guy, as you say yourself, has got so much money. He's not in touch with the Joe blogs. He doesn't have to worry about a loaf of bread or a pint of milk, or where the money's coming for that, where the shoes are coming for the children, how are we going to feed them through the winter again.
But I think that's why he stood in the rain. You mentioned the other side of this. He brings a butler out to hold an umbrella, and everyone says, oh, he's completely out of touch. The rest of us get rained on, Paula. Is that his message here? No?
No. He's just not for me. To be honest, none of them are. It's just a 2-horse race, the same as it always has been. It'll be between Conservative and Labour, and to be honest, neither of them are worth anything. None of the political parties represent my views.
Okay, well, you may be, because Worcester was a key seat for Blair, wasn't it? You may be your Worcester woman, as they were known.
No. Like I said, I don't think any of them have any views that I share with them.
All right.
The state of the country, everything. It's just gone to the dogs, to be honest.
All right, Paula, thank you very much indeed. We're seeing the Prime Minister get rained on. What did we make of that? Nick and Devon, what did you make of it yesterday, watching that just complete carnival?
Oh, hiya, Jeremy and panel. Thanks for having me on. Well, to me, Jeremy, the whole launch yesterday was just a big metaphor for the Conservative Party completely. I mean, the Prime Minister's a drip, the whole lot are a shower, and the sooner they're gone, the better for everybody.
It didn't rain sewage on him. I mean, there was that at least he was spared that, because that would have been...
The sewage is in the meme.
The sewage may come later. Yeah, it's in the meme. Thank you, Nick.